Tupac Amaru Shakur, a name that resonates with power and defiance, a name synonymous with revolution, a beacon for those who dare to dream of a better world, with poetry that stirred souls, with defiance that challenged the status quo. But few know the true origins of this icon, the roots that run deep into history. Tupac was a reincarnation of Tupaq Amaru. Tupaq Amaru, or Thupa Amaru, the 14th of April 1545, the 24th of September 1572, first name also spelled Tupac, Tupac, Topa, Tupac, Thupaq, Thupa, last name also spelled Amaro instead of Amaru, was the last Sapa Inca of the Neo-Inca State, the final remaining independent part of the Inca Empire. He was executed by the Spanish following a months-long pursuit after the fall of the Neo-Inca State. He also came back as José Gabriel Condorcanqui Noguera, also known as Tupac Amaru, was executed by Spanish authorities in 1781. His execution took place in Cuzco, the former capital of the Inca Empire. Tupaq Amaru was beheaded by the Spanish in 1572 after leading an uprising against Spanish rule in Peru. His execution marked the end of the Inca era. Tupac Amaru II and his family were captured in March 1781 and taken to Cuzco. After being forced to witness the execution of his wife and sons, he was mutilated, drawn and quartered, and beheaded. Reincarnation, also known as rebirth or transmigration, is the philosophical or religious concept that the non-physical essence of a living being begins a new lifespan in a different physical form or body after biological death. Reincarnation is the process of a soul being reborn again and again in new physical forms. Samsara, this cycle of birth, life, death, and rebirth is repeated until the soul achieves perfection or maturity. You see, this starts with bloody oath of secrecy given to Robert Bolron by Willem Ruffton, a Jesuit, for the murdering of kings and princes on the land. You see the killer clowns who know who we are. They are star watchers and know we reincarnate. So, they knew that Tupac would return. The killer clowns who rock your crowns like they know about the mounds, study solar birth charts. Remember the birth of Yahshua Jesus, which these guys Herod sent were star watchers logging the return of the Messiah. In astrology, a solar birth refers to the moment when the sun returns to the exact same position in the zodiac that it occupied at the time of your actual birth, essentially marking the start of a new astrological year, and often celebrated around your birthday. This is also known as a solar return, or solar revolution, where astrologers analyze the chart to understand the themes and energies of the upcoming year. This is how they knew that Emmett Till would return as Tamir Rice. Tupac, Tupac or Tupac, Quechua, a royal thing, is a defunct title used, similarly to Ras in the Ethiopian Empire, by the former Peruvian Inca Empire, and is used as a male name of Inca origin. A royal thing refers to something associated with a king or queen, typically including objects, ceremonies, or traditions that symbolize their power and authority within a monarchy, like a crown, a coronation ceremony, or a royal palace. Essentially, anything directly related to the royal family or their reign. In the Bible, a name is extremely important, often serving as a reflection of a person's identity, character, and even their future destiny, with many names carrying significant meaning and directly communicating God's message or a promise about the individual. Essentially, a name is more than just a label. It's a powerful symbol that reveals aspects of one's life and relationship with God. In many cases, God directly instructs parents to give their child a specific name, signifying the divine purpose behind the naming. Names could act as prophecies, foreshadowing important aspects of a person's life or future actions. Names were used to connect individuals to their family lineage and heritage, solidifying their identity within the community. For examples, Abraham, meaning father of many nations, reflecting God's promise to make Abraham the ancestor of a great people. Jacob means trickery and supplanter. Tupac was born on June 16, 1971, in East Harlem, Manhattan, New York City. Lassane Parish Crooks, a name given to him by his mother, Afeni Shakur, a member of the Black Panther Party. A name that was stripped of its historical significance, a name that did not reflect the legacy he was destined to carry. He later reclaimed his birthright, embracing a name that would define his destiny. At age 1, he took the name Tupac Amaru Shakur, a name that carried the weight of centuries of struggle and resistance, a name that echoed through centuries, from the ancient Incan Empire to the streets of modern America. Tupaq Amaru. It wasn't just a name, it was a statement, a declaration of his commitment to fight for justice and equality. The return of a prince, a connection to a legacy of resistance, a lineage of warriors who stood against oppression. Tupac embraced his namesake, Tupac Amaru I, the last Inca king who led a valiant fight against the Spanish conquerors. A warrior who challenged the might of the Spanish Empire, who fought for the freedom of his people. Tupac saw himself in Amaru's struggle. Both fought against oppression, both became symbols of resistance, both challenged the status quo, refusing to be silenced or subdued. Both became symbols of hope for the marginalized, inspiring generations to rise up and fight for their rights. Through his music, Tupac channeled the spirit of his namesake, using his platform to speak out against injustice and inequality. His lyrics were a powerful blend of personal pain and political commentary, resonating with those who felt voiceless and forgotten. His influence extended far beyond the realm of music, becoming a cultural icon and a symbol of resistance. Even in death, Tupac's legacy endures, his name continuing to inspire and empower. Today, his spirit lives on in the hearts of those who fight for justice, a testament to the enduring power of his name. Tupac Amaru Shakur is a prince on the land from the ancient Incan Empire of the Khalifa Empire. The name Amaru resonated deeply within Incan culture. It meant serpent, a symbol of wisdom, of power, of rebirth. The serpent sheds its skin, it emerges stronger, renewed. This resonated with Tupac's own life. He faced adversity head-on. He transformed pain into art. His lyrics became anthems for the unheard, his voice a weapon against injustice. Tupac understood the power of symbolism. He knew the weight his name carried. He became the modern-day Amaru, a voice for the voiceless, a symbol of hope for the oppressed. Also from Amar, like we said, means ruler. Tupac didn't just inherit a name, he inherited a struggle. Born into a world where the odds were stacked against him, he was destined to fight from the very beginning. His life was a testament to resilience, a journey marked by battles both internal and external. He saw the parallels between the Incan Empire and his own reality in U.S. corporation. The Incas, once a powerful civilization, faced their own set of challenges and adversities. Similarly, the new American, under foreign occupation with its rich cultural history erased by the invaders. The streets were his battlefield, poverty, his oppressor. Every corner, every alleyway told a story of struggle and survival. The graffiti on the walls was not just art, it was a cry for help, a testament to the lives lived in the shadows of society. To navigate this world, Tupac turned to Machiavelli's The Prince, a guidebook for power, for survival. In its pages he found strategies that resonated with his own experiences. Machiavelli's words were more than just theories, they were blueprints for navigating a world that often seemed hostile and unforgiving. He saw himself in Machiavelli's teachings. The idea of a prince, not born into royalty but forged in the fires of adversity, struck a chord with him. He was not just a rapper, he was a leader, a visionary, a prince in his own right, a prince fighting for his people. Tupac understood Machiavelli's message. It wasn't about cruelty, it was about strategy. It was about making the tough decisions, about understanding the complexities of power and using it to uplift those who had been downtrodden for far too long. About using any means necessary to uplift your people. Tupac embraced this philosophy. He knew that in a world where the rules were often unfair, one had to be shrewd, cunning, and relentless. His passion was not just for music but for justice, for change. He knew the game was rigged. The system was designed to keep people like him down. But instead of succumbing to despair, he chose to fight back. He chose to use his platform to speak out against the injustices that plagued his community. He used his words as weapons. Each lyric was a bullet, each verse a battle cry. His music was not just entertainment, it was a form of resistance, a way to challenge the status quo and inspire others to rise up. His music as his army. His fans were not just listeners, they were soldiers in his fight for justice. Together they formed a movement, a force to be reckoned with. Tupac's legacy is not just in his songs but in the impact he had on the world, the way he inspired a generation to dream bigger, to fight harder, and to never give up. Tupac recognized his enemies, the system that perpetuated poverty, the media that demonized his community. These were the modern-day conquistadors. Like Tupac Amaru I facing the Spanish, Tupac faced his own colonizers. They sought to silence him, to erase his message, to control his narrative. But Tupac fought back. His lyrics exposed their hypocrisy. His music challenged their power. He refused to be silenced. Tupac as a Nubian leader. Tupac was more than just a rapper. He was a leader, a revolutionary in the making. A revolutionary is a person who either participates in or advocates for a revolution. The term revolutionary can also be used as an adjective to describe something producing a major and sudden impact on society. He understood the plight of the so-called black community, the systemic oppression that held them captive. His music became an outlet for their pain, their frustration, their dreams. He spoke truth to power, challenging the very institutions that perpetuated inequality and injustice. His lyrics were infused with the spirit of Malcolm X and the Black Panther Party, advocating for self-determination, economic empowerment, and social justice. He challenged black youth to rise above their circumstances, to educate themselves, and to fight for their rights. He became a symbol of hope, a beacon of light in a world that often seemed shrouded in darkness. Tupac's impact on revolutionary thought. Tupac's influence extended far beyond the realm of music. He sparked a fire in the hearts and minds of young people across the globe, igniting a passion for social change. His lyrics became anthems of resistance, his words a call to action. He spoke about police brutality, economic inequality, and the prison-industrial complex with a rawness and honesty that resonated deeply with those who had long been marginalized and silenced. His music became a tool for education, raising awareness about the injustices faced by black and brown communities. He planted seeds of rebellion, inspiring a new generation to question authority and fight for a better future. He had money and power of influence. This they fear in Tupac. Influencers are individuals with large or highly engaged social media followings who hold considerable sway in specific industries such as beauty, fashion, fitness, travel, and food. Known for their authenticity and innovative approaches, they use their specialized knowledge and authority to influence target audiences. Tupac had millions of dollars and millions of fans. Tupac was secret donation money to the new Black Panther Party, new civil rights and other black militant groups. A black militant is someone who advocates for black rights and self-determination through violence or other criminal means. Black militancy was a part of the Black Power movement in the 1960s and 1970s. List of black militancy movements are the Black Panther Party. Founded in 1966 by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, this organization promoted black nationalism, socialism, and self-defense. The Black Liberation Army, an underground group that operated from 1970 to 1981. The BLA was made up of former Black Panthers and Republic of New Africa members, the New Black Panther Party, a group that was formed in the 1990s by Michael McGee, a former Black Panther Party member, the Black Militancy, and the Law. Black militants have been involved in riots, bombings, and killings of police officers and others. Black militancy and the Black Power movement. The Black Power movement promoted black pride, self-reliance, and self-defense. It encouraged African Americans to take control of their own destiny. Why Quincy Jones wanted to turn Tupac out? To make him unfit to rule. Unfit to rule means that someone is not qualified or capable of governing due to a lack of necessary skills, judgment, character, or mental stability, essentially indicating they are not suitable to be a leader. It implies the person does not have the necessary abilities to effectively lead a country or region. It can also suggest ethical issues or questionable character that would make them unsuitable for leadership. In some cases, it might even refer to a person's mental state being too unstable to govern. If another man turns your root chakra inside out, you become unfit to rule. Semen plays an incredibly important role in ancient rulership. If another man's semen is found in him, or his found in another, he is emasculated and has no right to the throne. This way belongs to the oldest extended body of writing in the world, and already we see the idea that ejaculating into the wrong place at the wrong time is dangerous. And I might add, we also see the beginning of the contaminated food or secret sauce theme of urban legends, like the angry restaurant employee or the fraternity cream-filled donut prank. Urban legends, like myths, are believed to express deep cultural anxieties. Even though in Egypt we can say semen finally becomes filled with heredity, and therefore it becomes a symbol for men and masculinity, and even though its oily materiality is pretty much totally harmless if touched or eaten, semen is also marked as a kind of poison, one that dirties and defiles anything it touches. This association is quite literal actually. The Egyptian word mtwt, probably pronounced matut, means both semen and venom. It could be that semen is venom because semen is life and life is death. There is a kind of Buddhistic life is suffering logic going on here, but also because semen was believed to come from the spine, and there is a visual punning between the penis and a snake, which is essentially a living spinal column whose head looks like the glands and whose milk spit is dangerous. The price of truth. The Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution protects the right of the people to keep and bear arms, but the right is not always applied equally to black people. Laws like the Mulford Act were passed to ban open carrying of weapons by so-called black people. So-called black people who have been reclassified to steal their land are often incarcerated for exercising their right to keep and bear arms. The Second Amendment states that a well-regulated militia is necessary for the security of a free state. However, the right to keep and bear arms is not applied equally to all people. Black militant funding and government cover-ups. The allegations surrounding Tupac's death don't stop there. Some theories delve into the murky world of black militant funding and government cover-ups. Rumors persist that Tupac was involved in efforts to secure funding for revolutionary movements, potentially attracting the attention of intelligence agencies determined to maintain control. These theories, while often dismissed as conspiracy theories, highlight the deep mistrust that exists between marginalized communities and the government. They speak to a history of betrayal, of broken promises, and of the government's willingness to use any means necessary to maintain its grip on power. Understand that Tupac's whole family were being watched by the government 24 hours a day. They were community organizers, black revolutionaries, rebels, and healers. This led to the attention of the federal government and COINTELPRO. They targeted black leaders and so-called black influences, the people of all shades who were promoting revolutionary thought and education. They are the royal family of the Inca Empire who got chased out of Mexico during the wars. Afeni Shakur and Mutulu Shakur, Tupac Shakur's mother and stepfather, were both members of the Black Panther Party. Mutulu Shakur was a party leader and was on the FBI's 10 most wanted list until the 1980s. "I think the key point is the government," he said. Tupac Shakur's stepfather was Mutulu Shakur, a black liberation activist and community health advocate. Shakur died of cancer in 2023 at the age of 72. Born Gerald Wayne Williams in Baltimore, Maryland on August 8, 1950, raised in Jamaica, Queens by his blind mother, joined the New African Independence Movement at age 16, worked with the Revolutionary Action Movement, RAM, in the late 1960s, member of the Black Liberation Army and the Republic of New Africa, considered the leader of a group that were set up by COINTELPRO on robbing a Brinks truck in Nanuet, New York, in 1981. Convicted of racketeering, robbery and robbery murder. Also set up by COINTELPRO and convicted of helping Assata Shakur escape from prison in 1979. Married to Afeni Shakur, Tupac's mother, from 1975 to 1982. They had a daughter, Sekiwa. They also had children named Moprim, Nzingha, Chinua, and Aize. He was released from federal prison on parole in 2022 due to health reasons. Was he injected with saxitoxin, a classic move by the Knights? Remember the CIA heart gun? The weapon itself resembled a Colt M1911 pistol with a scope, but it didn't fire .45 caliber bullets. Instead, it fired a frozen pellet of saxitoxin, a poisonous substance derived from shellfish that consume toxic algae blooms. The pellet could be silently fired up to 100 meters away and would enter the body through a pinprick entry wound. The poison would then melt, and within minutes, the victim would be dead. He died of cancer in Los Angeles in 2023, right after being released. Mutulu Shakur, black liberation activist and stepfather of Tupac, dies at 72. They include Saladin Shakur, a leader in the Revolutionary Action Movement, a student-led black nationalist group, his two sons, Lumumba and Zaid, leaders of the Black Panther Party in Harlem. Assata Olugbala Shakur, born Joanne Deborah Byron, July 16, 1947, also known as Joanne Chesimard, is an American political activist and convicted murderer who was a member of the Black Liberation Army, BLA. In 1977, she was convicted in the murder of State Trooper Werner Förster during a shootout on the New Jersey Turnpike in 1973. She escaped from prison in 1979 and is currently wanted by the FBI with a $1 million FBI reward for information leading to her capture and an additional $1 million reward offered by the New Jersey Attorney General. Unlike other prominent American families, the Shakurs did not have millions of dollars to establish universities and foundations in their name, but what they did create was a powerful legacy of resistance. The Shakurs committed themselves to the cause of black liberation and challenged white supremacy in the face of intense government repression, through various revolutionary groups, including the Revolutionary Action Movement, the Black Panther Party, and the Black Liberation Army. At every step, they worked to empower black communities across the nation, often filling in the gaps left open because of the inattention and indifference of American leaders. While some of the Shakurs, Arabic for thankful, were related by blood, others were chosen members of the family. What drew them together was their global political vision and praxis, deeply rooted in a history of resistance to oppression. They maintained a belief in black radical politics and the possibility that systems of oppression could be overturned. Following the example of Malcolm X, who adopted the last name X to signal the loss of his family's original African name, they chose the last name Shakur as a sign of their commitment to the global black freedom struggle. The so-called black family as an institution has been targeted by the state since the era of so-called slavery, which they really were POWs and is too regularly an object of derision in American society today. Black militancy in turn gave rise to the black nationalist and black power movements, intertwined ideologies that encouraged African Americans to take pride in their culture and seize power for themselves rather than relying on whites and white institutions. Ethnic unity was vital to this philosophy, particularly in the face of a cohesive white majority, and the movement radically altered attitudes across the color spectrum by enhancing cultural pride and changing many whites' perceptions of African Americans. Under surveillance, the government's watchful eye on the Shakur family. Tupac's activism was deeply rooted in his upbringing. His mother, Afeni Shakur, was a prominent member of the Black Panther Party. Growing up surrounded by revolutionaries, Tupac witnessed firsthand the government's efforts to silence dissent. Keep in mind, Afeni Shakur beat the killer clowns COINTELPRO FBI while being pregnant with Tupac in court, which rarely never happens. After her release, they targeted her with COINTELPRO tactics to land her out on crack or back in jail. The Shakur family was constantly under surveillance, their phones tapped, their movements monitored. This constant scrutiny had a profound impact on Tupac, shaping his worldview and fueling his distrust of authority. He knew that his words and actions were being watched, that his growing influence made him a target. The government's surveillance of the Shakur family serves as a stark reminder of the pervasive nature of state power and the lengths to which it will go to control those it deems a threat. So, Tupac was being watched by the government. Orlando Anderson allegedly stole a death row pendant, which Sean Combs, creator of death row's rival label Bad Boy Records, had said he would give $20,000 for. After the beating, Orlando Anderson would chase Tupac and Suge Knight's car out of the fight and open fire on the vehicle, resulting in the rapper's death. Billy Garland said his son's behavior was not appropriate, and that he only did it to gain respect and prove himself in front of death row and Suge Knight's people. Billy Garland felt the incident was staged. However, Tupac Shakur's father does not believe that Orlando Anderson was responsible for his son's murder, as all the evidence found was inconclusive. Furthermore, Anderson's uncle, Keith D., an important member of the Crips gang, has been blaming his nephew's death on himself for years, but Garland warns that it is all part of the government cover-up. It was the late 1960s, and J. Edgar Hoover smelled trouble. The status quo, hallowed by hate, sanctioned by Jim Crow, was beginning to crack. Behind the scenes, Hoover's Federal Bureau of Investigation was keeping watch. In 1967, the FBI quietly unleashed a covert surveillance operation targeting subversive civil rights groups and black leaders, including Marcus Garvey, Noble Drew Ali, the Black Panther Party, Martin Luther King Jr., Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X, and many others. Details of that sabotage plaster internal FBI records, with thousands of pages scattered across a medley of databases. Now, the UC Berkeley Library is working to put those pieces together. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, ran the COINTELPRO, counterintelligence program, during the 1960s and present to infiltrate civil rights and labor movements. Their goal was to disrupt, sow discord, create paranoia, and convince movement members to conduct criminal acts that would get them arrested. This allowed authorities to demonize the members and the movements to shut them down. Many groups were targeted by the FBI. The Black Panther Party, the United Farm Workers, the Young Lords Party, and the Civil Rights Movement were impacted by these infiltrations. Despite what we know, there's more we don't know. Recently, Reper Joaquin Castro, DTX, asked the heads of the FBI and Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, if they were willing to work with him to declassify the rest of the information regarding these operations. They agreed. On the night of October 30th, 1993, Tupac Shakur, one of the most renowned rappers and actors of his time, performed at Clark Atlanta University. Following the show, Tupac and his entourage were en route to the Sheraton Hotel to celebrate Halloween, with Tupac riding in the front car. Meanwhile, Clayton County Officer Mark Whitwell, 33, and his brother Henry County Officer Scott Whitwell, 32, and their two wives had just finished celebrating Scott's wife passing the bar exam at the hotel. When they left and began to cross the street, they said an unrelated driver nearly struck them. An argument began that led to the two brothers fighting the black driver. When Tupac and his entourage arrived, they saw the two white men beating the black driver in the middle of the road, blocking the hotel entrance. Tupac jumped out, and everyone in the caravan followed. Mark pointed a gun toward the group. Dressed in plain clothes, the Whitwell brothers were not immediately recognizable as police officers. The Whitwells were visibly intoxicated, and Tupac responded to the drawn gun by pulling out his own. Then, Mark Whitwell smashed Tupac's car window with the butt of his pistol, and Tupac fired 3 shots from his 9mm Glock. 2 of the bullets hit the Whitwells. Mark was shot in the abdomen, and his brother in the buttocks. Tupac and his entourage returned to his hotel room. He smoked weed and listened to Dear Mama with his friends. Later on, he was arrested and charged with 2 counts of aggravated assault. The Whitwells, who were wounded in the incident, were treated at Grady Hospital and released the next day. Shakur pleaded not guilty and was released on a $55,059 bond. The charges against Tupac were dropped. During a hearing on December 1, 1993, it was revealed that the 2 officers involved in a shooting incident were intoxicated at the time. The hearing was held to determine whether the case should be presented to a grand jury. Additionally, investigators found out that both officers had been carrying guns that were stolen from a Henry County police evidence locker. One of the officers, Scott Whitwell, admitted to the theft. After looking at a preponderance of evidence, the prosecution discovered that the brothers had lied about who was the aggressor. It was revealed that Tupac had stopped to help as a good Samaritan and fired his gun in self-defense, which led to the charges against him being dropped. Mark Whitwell was charged with providing false statements to investigators and firing at Tupac's car, likely coming from conflicting accounts of the window breaking. The district attorney later dropped the charges against him, and Mark Whitwell resigned 6 months later. This really made the government mad that Tupac got away with shooting their own. After this, he really became a target. Some say the office were supposed to kill Tupac, but got through outguard by his reaction time and shooting at them. COINTELPRO, a legacy of silencing dissent. To understand the forces that may have conspired against Tupac, we must look back at the history of government surveillance and repression of black activists. This history is deeply rooted in the actions of the FBI and other government agencies which have long sought to control and undermine movements for social change. COINTELPRO, the FBI's counterintelligence program, was created in the 1950s to disrupt and neutralize political organizations deemed a threat to national security. Under the direction of J. Edgar Hoover, the program expanded its reach and became a tool for political repression. This program, shrouded in secrecy and fueled by paranoia, targeted civil rights leaders, Black Panther Party members, and other activists fighting for social justice. The FBI saw these groups as radical threats that needed to be contained at all costs. COINTELPRO employed a range of tactics from surveillance and infiltration to character assassination and even violence. Agents would plant false information, create internal conflicts, and use any means necessary to discredit and dismantle these movements. The program's legacy is one of fear, intimidation, and the suppression of dissent. Many activists were harassed, arrested, or worse, simply for advocating for equality and justice. It serves as a chilling reminder of the lengths to which the government will go to silence those who challenge the status quo. The echoes of COINTELPRO can still be felt today, as we continue to grapple with issues of surveillance, civil liberties, and the right to protest. A crown of thorns. Tupac's crown was heavy. It was wrought from struggle, from pain, from the weight of his people's expectations. He carried the burden of his community. He was their voice, their champion, but the fight took its toll. Despite the fame, the wealth, the adoration, Tupac never forgot where he came from. He carried the scars of his community. He wore them like badges of honor. God is demonstrating to us by the crown being made of thorns, that which kept man from the garden, sin was represented by the thorns on Jesus' head, showing us that he bore our sins on the cross. The crowning of Jesus with thorns is the atonement for the sins of pride, the root from which all other sins have sprung. It is a mystery of iniquity that beings created by God and endowed with intelligence should attempt to be like unto God their Creator. Denoting sin, sorrow, and hardship, The thorn is one of the most ancient symbols in the world. Together with the rose, it represents pain and pleasure, and the thorn is an emblem of Christ's passion, as with the crown of thorns. The crown of thorns symbolizes Jesus' humility, suffering, and victory, as well as the redemption of humanity from sin. The Jewish Defense League extortion and blackmail. Adding another layer to this complex web of intrigue are the allegations against the Jewish Defense League, or JDL. The JDL, a right-wing extremist group, has been accused of targeting Tupac and other Nubian artists with extortion attempts and death threats. While the JDL has denied these claims, rumors of their involvement persist. Some speculate that the JDL's alleged motives stemmed from Tupac's criticism of certain segments of the entertainment industry, which they perceived as an attack on Jewish individuals. Others believe it was part of a broader effort to silence a powerful black voice that threatened the established order. Keep in mind, the Jewish guys are dark-skinned Moors. They say they are free white men, but have dark skin. They are the Moorish Zion Jewish Mafia. They use the pale faces as frontmen. The Jewish Defense League, JDL, is a religious and political organization in the United States and Canada. Its stated goal is to protect Jews from anti-Semitism by whatever means necessary. It has been classified as right-wing terrorist group by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, since 2001, needs update, and is also designated as hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. According to the FBI, the JDL has been involved in plotting and executing acts of terrorism within the United States. Most terrorist watch groups classify the group as inactive as of 2015. Founded by Mayor Kahan in New York City in 1968, the JDL's self-described purpose was to protect Jews from local manifestations of anti-Semitism. They made it personal with Tupac because they knew who he was. They sent one of the 12 Monkeys, James Jimmy Henchman. James Jimmy Henchman Rosemond admits involvement in 1994 Tupac Shakur shooting. James Jimmy Henchman is a part of the Black Hand JDL Mafia. Rosemond is currently on trial on separate drug trafficking charges and has admitted to ambush the rapper, according to reports in U.S. magazine The Village Voice. Why is the Jewish Defense League extortion so-called black artists? Extortion is the crime of forcing someone to give you money or property through threats or intimidation. It can involve violence, threats of physical harm, or damaging someone's reputation. Threatening to harm someone if they don't give you money. Threatening to expose a secret about someone unless they do something for you. Threatening to release trade secrets about a company unless they pay a ransom. Offering protection from harm in exchange for money. Extortion is similar to blackmail, which is another crime that involves using intimidation to get something from someone. However, blackmail doesn't usually involve threats of violence. FBI files on Tupac Shakur murder show he received death threats from Jewish gang. Files state that Jewish Defense League had extorted money from various rap music stars by making death threats and then offering protection for a fee. Files released Thursday by the Federal Bureau of Investigation on the 1996 murder of rapper Tupac Shakur state that the star had received death threats from the Jewish Defense League, an organization that has been characterized as terrorist group. Recently revealed details about autopsy of murdered rapper suggest he suffered torture by EMR, a violent technique used by South Tel Aviv gangs which causes heart attacks in the space of hours. More revelations are surfacing from the FBI files recently released about murdered rapper Tupac Shakur. Last week, the FBI revealed that Shakur had received death threats from the Jewish Defense League, a right-wing extremist group. The JDL have been extorting money from various so-called black rap music stars via death threats, the FBI file on the case states. The report then goes on to describe how the group would make the death threats, and then call the rap star and offer protection for a fee. But the FBI files also show that although Shakur was shot dead in Las Vegas by unknown assailants, an autopsy performed after his 1996 murder concluded the rapper would have died the same day due to abnormally high cholesterol rates. The autopsy also found huge numbers of eggshells in the rapper's stomach. According to a source in the FBI, these findings are concurrent with a technique the JDL adopted from some of southern Tel Aviv's most violent gangs. Known as EMR, eggs, macaroni and rice, the victim is forced to pay up or consume huge amounts of carbs. The FBI files include a CCTV clip filmed by Israeli police, showing how the technique is used. Recommended to view from minute 145, not suitable for children. As in this official police clip, we can see the victim escaping towards the end, only to be found dead 2 hours later from a lethal heart attack. The FBI said that besides EMR, known locally as the Pachim Shulchan, opening the table technique, the JDL has been known to use other vile forms of pressure, such as forcing victims to drive through Muncie, New York on a Sabbath, forcing black artists to commit an abomination against the Most High God, forcing victims to shout anti-Semitic slurs, threatening victims to be blacklisted by the industry. The JDL owned real estate firms in NY, Jeep in mind the connection with the JDL and the COINTELPRO. The JDL hide behind the killer clowns and called themselves hip-hop police at New York. Now you know who shot Tupac Shakur at Quad Recording Studios in New York. Tupac placed the blame on Roseman in his song Against All Odds. He said Jimmy was the feds. In June of 2011, low-key hoodlum Dexter Isaacs stated that he was paid by Roseman to commit the crime, saying, "In 1994, James Roseman hired me to rob Tupac at the Quad Studio. He gave me $2,500 plus all the jewelry I took except for one ring which he wanted for himself. It was the biggest of the 2 diamond rings that we took. He said he wanted to put the stone in a new setting for his girlfriend at the time, Cynthia Reed. I still have as proof the chain that we took that night in the robbery." 15 years after Tupac Shakur's murder, the FBI has released documents showing that the rapper received death threats from the Jewish Defense League as part of an extortion scheme. FBI files show Jewish hate groups suspected of sending death threats to Tupac. Tupac Shakur, Tupac, died on September 13, 1996 at 25 years old, in a Nevada hospital from internal bleeding after being shot several times in what many suspect to be a planned shootout on the Las Vegas Strip. He was placed in a medically induced coma for several days after the Sept. 7 shooting before succumbing to his injuries. Eazy-E, born as Eric Wright, died a year earlier on March 26, 1995 at the age of 30 after losing a battle with AIDS. The Ruthless Records founder and leader of the group NWA, together with Ice Cube, brought gangster rap to the forefront and called out police violence in a time before social media could capture every instance of police brutality. Both Tupac and Eazy-E were suspected of being targeted for extortion and suspected of receiving death threats from the Jewish Defense League. Last month, the defense advanced similar charges, citing the FBI's investigation of Rubin in connection with the unsolved 1985 bombing death in Santa Ana of Alex O'Day, West Coast director of the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee. According to Morris's account, the FBI targeted Rubin and the JDL in its investigations of the murders of Shakur and Eazy-E, whose given name was Eric Wright. In fact, Wright was not slain. He died of AIDS-related complications in 1995. The victim and their family are taken to a safe haven, usually a private estate, and are protected by gun-toting bodyguards associated with the Jewish Defense League. The subjects convince the victim they have worked a deal out with the person, us, making the death threats, and the threats cease. The victim then pays the subjects for the protection services rendered and resumes their normal lifestyle with no fear of further death threats. The agent said another reliable informant subsequently corroborated the allegations and named the same people. Silencing a voice. Death threats and intimidation. Silencing a voice means to prevent someone from expressing their opinion, thoughts, or concerns, effectively stopping them from being heard. It can be done through various methods like interruption, disregard, intimidation, or creating an environment where speaking up is discouraged, often leading to feelings of powerlessness and invisibility for the person being silenced. Tupac lived under constant threat from the JDL. Death threats became a regular occurrence, a chilling reminder of the dangers he faced. These threats came from various sources, some linked to rival rappers, others from unknown entities. The constant fear took a toll, weighing heavily on his mind and influencing his music. He spoke openly about the attempts on his life, the paranoia that haunted his every move. He knew that his outspoken nature and revolutionary message had made him a target, but he refused to be silenced. He continued to speak truth to power even as the threats against him intensified. Tupac's legacy, a martyr for justice and a voice unsilenced. Tupac Shakur's life may have been cut short, but his legacy continues to inspire and ignite change. His influence transcends music, reaching into the realms of social activism and cultural transformation. He remains a potent symbol of resistance, a reminder that the fight for social justice is far from over. His lyrics, filled with raw emotion and unfiltered truth, continue to echo in the hearts of those who seek justice and equality. His music continues to resonate with new generations, his words as relevant today as they were decades ago. Songs like Changes and Keep Ya Head Up still serve as anthems for those facing adversity, offering hope and a call to action. Tupac's story is a cautionary tale, a reminder of the price of truth and the dangers of challenging the status quo. His confrontations with the law and his outspoken nature made him a target, yet he never wavered in his commitment to speaking out against injustice. All eyes on me. This chapter delves into the life and legacy of one of the most influential figures in music history, Tupac Shakur. His journey from the streets to global stardom is a testament to his indomitable spirit and profound impact on the world. Tupac once said, "I'm not saying I'm gonna change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world." And indeed he did. His music transcended borders, touching the hearts and minds of millions. His lyrics, often raw and unfiltered, spoke of the struggles and triumphs of life, resonating deeply with people from all walks of life. His message resonated across cultures, breaking down barriers and uniting people through the universal language of music. Whether it was the pain of injustice or the hope for a better tomorrow, Tupac's words found a home in the hearts of many. He became a global icon, a symbol of resistance and resilience. From the bustling streets of New York to the remote villages of Africa, Tupac's influence was felt far and wide. His image adorned walls, his music played in countless homes, and his message of empowerment echoed across continents. Tupac's legacy is a reminder of the power of art and the enduring impact of a single voice. His life, though tragically cut short, continues to inspire and motivate. Candlelight vigils and memorials held in his honor are a testament to the lasting impression he left on the world, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, one voice can make a difference. Tupac's courage to speak out against injustice and his unwavering commitment to his beliefs serve as a beacon of hope for those who continue to fight for equality and justice. That even a prince from the streets can challenge an empire, his spirit lives on in the hearts of those who dare to dream and strive for a better world. Tupac's story is a powerful testament to the idea that greatness can emerge from the most unlikely of places. In his music, in his words, his lyrics, often penned in the quiet moments of reflection, continue to speak to the struggles and aspirations of people everywhere. Each song, each verse, is a piece of his soul, a glimpse into the mind of a visionary. In the fight for equality, Tupac's activism and his unwavering commitment to social justice have left an indelible mark on the civil rights movement. His voice, both in his music and his actions, continues to inspire new generations of activists and changemakers. All eyes on me, always. His legacy is a constant reminder that the power of one individual can indeed change the world. As we look to the stars and remember his gaze, we are reminded of the enduring impact of his life and the timeless relevance of his message. A life cut short, remembering Tupac Shakur. Tupac Shakur, a name synonymous with revolution, poetry, and raw talent. His presence was magnetic, his words powerful, and his influence undeniable. Born into a world of struggle, he rose to become a hip-hop icon, a voice for the voiceless. Growing up in the tough neighborhoods of East Harlem and later moving to Baltimore, Tupac's early life was marked by hardship and resilience. His lyrics, a potent mix of anger and hope, resonated with a generation grappling with poverty, racism, and police brutality. He spoke of the harsh realities of life, but also of dreams and aspirations, giving hope to those who felt unheard. But Tupac's life was tragically cut short at the age of 25, gunned down in a drive-by shooting. The world lost not just a musician, but a visionary who had so much more to give. His murder remains unsolved, shrouded in mystery and speculation. The questions surrounding his death have fueled countless theories and debates. Some believe it was a result of the East Coast-West Coast rivalry that plagued the hip-hop scene. This rivalry, often sensationalized by the media, created a dangerous environment for artists on both coasts. Others point to darker forces at play. Could there have been a larger conspiracy, involving powerful figures who felt threatened by Tupac's influence and message? Could Tupac's outspoken activism and revolutionary message have made him a target of something larger, something more sinister? His calls for social justice and equality resonated far beyond the music industry, touching the hearts of many. To understand this, we must delve into the life and legacy of Tupac Shakur, a man who dared to challenge the status quo and paid the ultimate price. His legacy lives on, inspiring new generations to fight for their beliefs and to never be silenced. Some believe Tupac faked his death, suggested by the Prince of Machiavelli philosophies. They say the real essences and the Nation of Islam help him get to Cuba or Africa, where the Black Panther have safe camps.